Welcome all to the July 18th. I didn't even know what date it is. July 18th edition of Legal Tech Week. This is a show where we talk about the news of the week in legal tech and innovation. I'm Bob Ambrogi, and we've got a pretty full panel here today. So let's get started with figuring out who these people are you see on your screen, starting with Niki Black.
Excellent.
The,
My
the
name is
magical
Black.
Niki Black, I have to say,
Yeah, right.
as you'll see in a minute, here in a minute.
Um, my name is Nikki Black, and I am the principal legal insight strategist at FinPay, parent company of My Case, LawPay, CasePure, and DocketWise. I write legal tech columns for the ABA Journal, Above the Law, and the Daily Record, and I also oversee and author our uh, 2025 legal industry report and the prior legal industry reports, and also this year our soon to be released personal injury legal industry report.
You have a wind chime report?
No, I've just decided that I'm gonna have this playing on my iPhone
Okay.
where I go, so you guys can look forward to this at upcoming conferences. This is just gonna be blaring out of my iPhone as like my backdrop.
Chimes just following you everywhere. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. And Victor, how about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Victor Lee. I am Assistant Managing Editor for the ABA Journal, focusing on business of law and technology. I do not have theme music. Um, Definitely not Coldplay, so.
Ooh. Um, and they're snuggling on the cam is no. Um, Coming to us from the West Coast, I guess. Both of our other panelists are coming to us from the West Coast today. Stephanie?
Yes. Hi. I'm Stephanie Wilkins, Director of Content at Legal Tech Hub. I'm currently in Portland, head of AALL, and I'm also dog sitting for my cousin. So if I pop in and out, it's because I'm attending to a pup.
All right. And Joe?
Joe Patrice from Above the Law and podcast Thinking Like a Lawyer. And I am also in Portland, or just outside of it, at my old house. So yeah.
We just lost a dog we were helping take care of. Not lost in the tragic sense, but it went home. He
Right.
went home. My son's dog was out visiting us for a while, but just went back to San Francisco where he lives most of the time. So I'm kind of missing him. The dog, that is. The son's okay. That's okay. And I'm Bob Ambrogi. I write a blog called Law Cites and have a podcast called Law Next. So AALL coming up this week. Doesn't really does it start tomorrow? I'm getting in tomorrow. I'm flying out tomorrow, but it doesn't really start till Sunday, right? In the program. I know there's always the day before thing of the
I
like
mean,
special libraries or something like that. Or
yeah, I think there's like a few days of things for members and things like that, but the general conference starts Sunday.
yeah, it can be a confusing schedule because they have a lot of stuff leading up to it, and then a lot of stuff that happens after it. But the bulk of it is Sunday and Monday, I think. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and glad to see some other people be there. And Steve Embry will be there too, so we can all chat about that next week and catch up on how it goes. In terms of stories we have this week, I thought Stephanie, if you want to kind of kick it off, you wrote a really good piece this week on something that everybody's talking about all the time, which is
Yes.
agents and agentic AI, and you really gave a great overview of kind of what that all is and what we're talking about. And with the sort of provocative headline, "Are these the AI agents legal was looking for?" So I don't know. Maybe we should start by explaining that headline.
Yeah, well, partly it's a Star Wars reference. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we dubbed this Agents Week at Legal Tech Hub because there's so much about agents. We launched a map today too. But yeah, I've been noodling that one around for a while because like I feel like at least in legal circles and maybe non-hyper tech circles, the first time I heard about agents was like fall of 2023. There was that research paper that came out that had the little agents in the simulated world that on their own started sending Valentine's invitations and running for office, and everyone was like, wow, this is going to be great. And like a year later, that same researcher presented at Codex, and it was just like, here are all the possibilities. So I think everybody sort of expected this like magic. Same thing with the Gen AI release initially, like it's going to be magic, it's going to be whatever. And now we know, Gen AI does some things that are a lot more boring than people might have thought they were. And, agents aren't necessarily going to be like as hyper exciting as these, little people in this fake world that you can watch run around. So like, as always, there's like this heightened expectation, and we have started seeing agentic AI roll out now. So that was sort of like, in addition to be a Star Wars nerd, I was like, the agents we have now, is that what people were thinking of when they came? And then more so within it, it's a discussion of like, what even is an agent? And why can the industry not even agree on what one is? Like, it's the same way that no one could actually agree on a definition of Gen AI in the beginning. Agents, they're all over the board. And a lot of this comes down to, and I don't know, I mean, people can agree to disagree, but a lot of it comes down to the level of autonomy involved, because then there's like this crossover between workflows, guided workflows, and agents. Then you have some people saying guided agentic workflows. So it's a lot of, semantics, but I happen to think semantics matter, especially in legal, because we love words and that's what our whole profession's built on. But so some of the things you're seeing being announced as agents are actually just guided workflows that we've had for a while. Some things that are called workflows are actually agentic. And it's just like, but the first, like I wrote so much and could write 4 different pieces out of that. I think that's like the short version, if you can imagine it, of what is an agent, what is required. And what we're seeing as the emerging definition, which is not 100% universal, is this concept that it has to be a system that has access to tools and can make a plan to use those tools on its own and then execute it, and without being told like a guided workflow, like if this, then that, like here you are, here's what I want you to accomplish. These are the tools you have access to. What is your plan for doing them? How do you do it? And show your work along the way and execute that. Some, whether it's reasoning, autonomy, independence, like there's a lot of different synonyms going around in it, but that seems to be the more emerging definition. Which again, people will fight it, and this will continue to evolve. And is everything that has been announced as an agent fit that definition? No. I mean, we're not going to sit here and start calling out which ones are and which aren't, and the technology is evolving, but it really was an effort to start breaking into that, letting people understand what people mean. And also I end it with, you might not even need an agent. Like agents, same way you might not even need Gen AI. So it's not like, oh, actually technically an agent better than the other tool. It's about always everything we say about you should use the tech that solves your problems. But yeah, that was my massive lift to get that off. And now there will be a million other articles I can write about it, because there are sections I didn't even end up putting in there, including Joe's point about malpractice. That's going to be a whole other article.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It reminds me of when 2017, 18, we're all talking, everyone was talking about how what's AI, and all the vendors are using AI, but it's machine learning and it isn't really, it's, I feel like every time a new tech comes out, first of all, you're always all over the definitions, which is really important, Stephanie, kind of getting them out there so people start using the same definitions when they're talking about them. I think it's really helpful. But the same thing happened with AI, and you're right, with Gen AI, and now with agentic or agents. It's not even the same. The terms are even different. But yeah,
Right.
but I think, and it's hard in the beginning, because sometimes you use terms that maybe aren't technically correct when you're trying to educate people about it. And I think that all just kind of, I think it's important to get the discussions going, and then we'll hammer the definitions out the way you're suggesting, and the way that you're helping create that, just frame it. And I think that helps. But it's also just important to start talking about it, even if we don't have those definitions down pat or an agreement as to what they are within this space. But I think it's really important that you're doing that kind of work. I wanted to read the article, but it's behind that paywall, so I couldn't read it.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I don't have access to it.
I don't pay it. It wasn't behind my payroll.
Do you just have an account, maybe?
Well, no, I think there's a
Maybe.
limit. After a while, you go behind the paywall, depending on how much you've read.
I thought it just
sort of like ALM with its like
Yeah.
2-story limit, and then it immediately lifts the limit again. No, I thought that's a really good definition you gave, and it's kind of, well, it's kind of funny just because we actually had a long dinner conversation about this the other night. My son is an engineer at a little company called My Case, working on some AI stuff. But we were trying to, like, somebody at this dinner table was like, you got to explain to me what agents are because I just don't get it. And I would say that his explanation was actually very close to the explanation you just gave, Stephanie. And you know, part of it is, and I was trying to ask, like, how do you code agents? Like, is that something you kind of go in and code? It's like, well, it's kind of just like it's in the AI. I mean, you kind of don't even have to code it. It's just something that's part of the large language model, and it's really fascinating to see.
It's funny, I had a section in that article originally that was gonna get into like how these are coded, and it got so complex and like I was getting so many different explanations, and I wasn't gonna like half-ass that and explain it poorly, so I cut that section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, probably a
I,
wise move.
I've been
Yeah.
spending like, and we talked briefly about this last week, that I've been trying to kind of figure out the agent world, to experiment a little bit with it, because I'm more cynical of them, at least in legal practices. But I wanted to build one to kind of test that out. And it is kind of a wide range as far as whether or not you need coding prowess to make it work or not. And it depends on like how much you're asking of it, which gets back to this definition question. If you're having this kind of guided workflow, it's pretty easily no codable. But if you're trying to do anything more difficult than that, you do need to. But the cool thing is ask you can ask the other AI outputs to give you the code that might code it. So then you create kind of a garbage in, garbage in, garbage in loop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
it.
mean, there's always a cycle with these things, right? Because I mean, for when technology system review first came out, we saw that with like all the press were, oh, we have TAR, or we have predictive coding, or we have this, or we have that, because they wanted to get in on the buzzwords, they wanted to make it seem as if they were cutting edge and things like that. And it'll be the same thing with AI. We've already seen with AI. It'll be the same thing with agents. Because I actually did a podcast. It was released this week. I did it a couple weeks ago. Talking about what agentic AI was, just like a one-on-one kind of thing. And I took the definition from IBM. I went to IBM.com and I'm like, what is agentic AI? And I just took it from that. So yeah, I mean, as things get as things progress and people get more comfortable or just more used to the technology, then I'm sure there'll be some kind of consensus as to what it is and what it isn't.
Wait, Victor, who are your guests on that podcast?
It
Did you
was
have
Tom. It was
guests?
Tom Martin.
Oh, okay. Because I've got a podcast coming out Monday on what is agentic AI. Like, oh
Oh,
no, did we have the same guest? Because that usually that
what?
happens all the time, right?
Oh, was it Tom?
No, it was not Tom. It's Emily Colbert and Ravia Ashraf from the Thomson Reuters, the ones who were kind of leading the co-counsel. We all saw them at that press briefing earlier
Gotcha.
this summer, but they were
I
talking
was
more
hoping
about
to get an agentic
yeah,
AI to actually be the guest, but I don't think that's quite within their powers just yet.
yeah. But I
Oh,
think that's probably the more critical question is how does the technology get deployed in legal practice and what does it mean for legal practice? And, you know, I know, Joe, you've had some concerns about sort of I think you alluded to this earlier, but this sort of the potential for malpractice here or for something going really wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I like so I was off on another thing, which was just
Oh,
the conversation about whether or not you could have an agent be the guest. And I'll bet you can. I think the guide would be the topic we talked about last week, the experiment that Jenner and Block did, making AI respond to questions from the justices. I'll bet you could create an agent to think things through and do the voice tweak that they did in that, and then use it to be your guest. I think it's doable. I think that, I mean, it probably takes some work, but I think you probably could have an agent do that and end with kill all humans or whatever they're going to end with. Yeah, now like all this agent conversation, I continue to say that it's got a kind of a square peg round hole effect. In the broader technology world, it's a cool buzzword that means things to folks. And in the legal world, it means things that can be very scary for folks. And so that's why to the extent you can, I still think that if it were marketed more as guided workflows, it probably would appeal to lawyers a lot more than if you start trying to hype its ability to go rogue.
Well, yeah, but I mean, sure, but guided workflows are a different thing.
Sure.
And that's kind of the whole thrust of my article is like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but this, I mean, we're just summarizing the conversation we had last week or the week before, I think. But yeah, no, the guided workflow thing, the reason why I view that as a better situation is, as we said at that briefing that we're all talking about, the examples of agents that we saw there seemed much more like slick versions of guided workflows. And I thought that makes more sense as a thing, as a marketing technique, to the extent that the stuff that is actually discussed as an agent, when these tech companies talk about it, is very much the sort of stuff that is malpractice. And so you don't want to do that. Whereas if you marketed the level to which it's just slicker ways to get done stuff that has been done in the past, it's going to appeal a lot more.
But I still think you can deploy agents within a software system or within a platform, just as you could deploy them outside of the platform. Like, you can deploy them outside of the platform to access internet, to go book flights, to go do this, to go do the other thing, to conduct research, to file documents for you. But you can also deploy it within a platform where there are constraints to go do things within the platform for you. And I think that's more than a guided workflow.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that is a safer way for them to be deployed and avoid a lot of those malpractice issues. So I think there's like distinctions to be made in that regard as well. I think I said this last week too, so we have had this conversation, but
yeah,
let's just do it all over again. Why not?
yeah. I mean, it is a good one, but yeah, no, like, yeah, I still maintain that the stuff that the real people out there in the tech world are working on, they are trying to build things that do stuff that is stuff that does not work in what we do, because they have different needs, and that's fine and that's great. But it means that there's kind of a cross purposes of the hype, because what OpenAI wants to say, look at what we can do here, is stuff that in illegal, you're like, oh my God, please never let anything do that.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot to what Niki just said, because I mean if you're deploying an agentic AI within the context of a legal technology application of some kind, I mean, again, it's not a guided workflow, because the AI is able to sort of make decisions about how to process your request or how to perform what it is you're asking it to do, which applications to access, when it needs to access them. But it's all in order to serve you up something that you then still have to be the lawyer for and do the lawyering around. And so it's not, I don't really see that as terribly risky, and it is potentially significant in terms of the time savings and the efficiency.
And like,
Yeah.
you don't have to let agents go rogue. Like, you could be like, before you hit the final execute button, you look it over, and like, you don't let it do. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's what Skynet's that was their corporate motto.
I feel everything else feeling very deja vu from like 2 years ago when Joe was like, Gen AI is garbage, it's not going to be a thing.
Oh no, I didn't say it wasn't going to be a thing. I said it was garbage, and it is still garbage. I mean, the stuff that it does is still largely garbage, but it's useful garbage at times in the right context. But it's largely garbage.
And 10 years ago on this show, we said the cloud was never going to be a thing. So
No, I was always on board with the cloud. Cloud
Uh,
makes sense.
Okay, the show didn't exist 10 years ago anyway, so you couldn't have done that.
It's true.
Well, okay, well, plenty of other AI news to talk about today as well. So we can maybe talk more about agents. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about agents in the days and weeks and months and years to come, especially with ILTA coming up soon. Where to go? I mean, so actually, I thought one of the interesting things was Victor, a story you picked up on a law school incorporating Gen AI in a way that wouldn't have been predicted a couple of years ago, I guess.
Yeah, so yeah, this is a Inside Higher Ed article that I guess got posted today. University of Michigan Law School starting with this fall, but for people applying this fall, so applying for next semester. Sorry, next year. School years don't make sense to me anymore. It's so people applying this fall for admission next fall, I guess. They would there's a supplemental essay that would ask students, about their AI usage and see how that could potentially change law school, how it could affect law schools and what they learn and things like that. It's interesting because Michigan was one of the they took a hard line on Gen AI when it first started becoming widespread. They and in fact they still restrict their students as far as like how they can use it and whatnot. But so for them to kind of come off that was pretty noteworthy. And just I mean, obviously there are some concerns that people had, like, are people now gonna are applicants now going to exaggerate their AI use to try to seem more cutting edge, or that they understand it more, or that they use it more than they ordinarily do. But I don't know. I just feel like if that forces students to learn more about it, applicants to learn more about it, that's not a bad thing. It'll be interesting to kind of see how it goes, and just by virtue of the fact that they came off their position. And I mean, because I think they said in the interview with the blog that this is now a skill that that not all legal employers, but big law firms especially, are looking for from associates. So they thought it would be a way for people to at least start getting used to it and start to demonstrate their knowledge of it. So it shows some forward thinking, and it shows some flexibility that you don't ordinarily expect from legal education. So yeah, kudos. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll obviously keep posted with how things are with this.
I wonder what they think this is going to tell them about an applicant. Um, I don't know. I think it's interesting given their turnaround on this, but I'm just curious what they actually get out of it in terms of evaluating an applicant by reading something that was an AI assisted answer. Does it show that they're able to cleverly hide the fact that they used AI, or they're able to use an AI generated answer without succumbing to hallucinations or something? I don't know. It's a funny thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not one of those things where, yeah, I don't think it's one of the things where they expect people to show kind of expertise with it, or um, to try to differentiate themselves from other applicants. I think it's just they're probably just looking for just to see who, who's willing, because I don't think it's if I recall, the supplemental essays are not like, you get several of them, and you can choose which ones to answer. So yeah, oh yeah, applicants may write up to 2 supplemental essays selected from 10 prompts. So they probably want to see who answers it and see, like, what they say and stuff like that, just to, just it probably breaks it up for the admissions officers too, so they don't all read the same essays over and over again about how you overcame something, in your life that makes you a great lawyer, that'll make you a great lawyer or whatever. So yeah, I mean, look, any kind of demonstration that you've at least thought about AI, or like have used it in your life, and understand how to, like, get by on it, will probably help you as far as showing your worth to a future employer. But it's probably not going to help you get into law school. I mean, they're still mainly going to look at LSAT scores and grades. So
What do the rest of you think? Is there any value in this?
I thought it was interesting because it's like you do wonder, like, what are they actually looking for? Are they looking for how well you edit it so it doesn't sound like it's from AI and doesn't use words like crucial, or those other giveaways? Does it have the 3M dash or the 2M dash or whatever it is? Are they looking to see if you edit to remove all those and words like reshape and like there's so many transformation? Does it remove those words, or are they all still stuck in there? And does it show that you don't really know how to edit it? I don't know. Is that what they're looking for? Are they looking to compare how different the output is from the responses before? And is that somehow going to show that the person does or doesn't know how to use AI? I mean, I think it's interesting. And at least they've changed their thinking over in 2 years pretty quickly. But I don't know what they actually hope to gain from it, other than press. Maybe it's a good PR pitch. I don't know.
Can I just note for the first time, there's something I truly, truly hate about AI, and that is the fact that I adore the M dash, and it's trying to take that away from me because I've used it since long before any of us, or even I knew it. Jenny, I was, and like I just hate this whole like, oh, you must be using AI because you use that. And I'm like,
I mean,
sorry.
it's because it trained on people like
Right.
us. And so it's just trying to copy us, which everyone does because we're good
Right.
at what we do. And so yeah, you should not be afraid of it. You still own it.
But isn't there also an issue? I thought there was where ChatGPT makes the M dash three dashes connected, and it's
It
supposed to be two. I
it
don't
does
know.
it does the two as opposed to the one.
Sounds like the N
Sure.
instead of the M, the N dash instead of the M dash or whatever, which
I
is
never
fine.
knew there was a difference.
Well, one's slightly longer than the other is the only thing. And like, I actually, fun fact, was having this conversation with Niki Shaver where apparently one is more common coming up in the US versus in Europe. Who knew? But yeah, it's exactly right, Joe. Like journalists have been using it forever, and then AI trained on journalists, and now people are like, "Oh, journalists, are you using AI?" And I'm, oh, sorry,
You know
this
why
is
we
not
use
me
it
to
so much?
hijack this,
Oh,
but yeah,
you know why we use it so much? Because semicolons are evil. And we all know it, and we just found a way to get around it.
exactly.
Well, and it's a great way to visually, instead of having commas, to sort of visually set aside a concept within a sentence to break it up so it's not too many, so the reader can follow the course of the sentence without having to read it twice sometimes. It just
Yeah.
makes it more visually simple to understand, especially when you're glancing and skimming what the person's trying to say. It's like, it is a beautiful technique. And it's one that I started to use over the years the more I wrote. And
Yeah,
you're
I
right,
mean,
now all of a sudden it's like, oh no.
I use it as basically a super parenthetical almost. It is a parenthetical thought, but it is more important than to be parenthetical, and so you use it that way. Yeah, no, that's a big deal. The way in which a lot of this was trained, I gather, on a lot of its early training was on speakers of Kenyan English, and so a lot of the because that they early LLM models apparently did this. I was reading this history of it recently, and they trained early on a lot of content from there. So a lot of the Britishism slash just like the idiosyncrasies of Kenyan English are included in the guts of some of these LLMs, so much so that basically people writing in English from Kenya get flagged as AI all the time because it's in the roots of this stuff. It was a book I read. I can't remember the title, but um, yeah, but I think Ivy Gray pointed it out to me, and I read that book, and it mentioned it in there that was a thing. Yeah, it's learned weird habits from all of us.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on the M dash, Stephanie. I've been a long time user of the M dash, and Gen AI can't take it away from me. I still love it.
Exactly. I'm not going to stop. You can't make me.
Yeah.
Maybe an agent
Um,
can, be, but no.
yeah. Possibly a better essay topic, probably a more revealing essay topic, perhaps for a law school to have used, would have been to have asked a law student to craft an artful response explaining why they used hallucinated citations in an article and why they fucked up in their use of AI. Now that would have been a clever writing assignment, I think.
That would have been a clever writing assignment.
If
Really
only
fascinating.
somebody had done that.
Say something like that. So we had
Stephanie's
another.
like, what is he
This
talking
will
about?
shock you, but we had another situation where a lawyer had a bunch of fake cases in their brief. I know that obviously after that Avianca thing, no one has done that, and we've never talked about it again because everyone learned their lesson. But no, this is a case where there were some fake things. As soon as it was pointed out, the lawyer corrected it and put it out, but had to respond to the order to show cause about you know having fake cases. I actually, this story, the fun, we'll talk about the fun part, but we'll talk about the serious part first. As a serious part, I actually thought that this letter was pretty good as a template, except for the parts we're about to get to, because it does a decent job of how you should respond to this. One, act quickly. Two, try to isolate exactly where in the workflow it went wrong and tell the courts that. Explain what explain the severity of it. You know, it didn't misstate the law, it just misstated this, whatever. Like, put that into context, and then proactively explain what you're going to do to fix it, and don't lie and say I promise I will never use AI again, because that's going to be impossible. So have some sort of proactive plan for what you're going to do. That is the sort of response that will say to me, if I'm a judge, you take this serious, you understood what happened, you understood the severity, you have a plan, maybe I don't throw the book at you. I thought on that level this was a really good template of a response. That said, this lawyer, uh, this lawyer takes the job of being a lawyer slightly more seriously than they probably should have. Um, oh, hold on, I hit the wrong story, and when I put it in the chat there, I think. But yeah, so this person responds with, I'm trying to get the exact quotes here. My professional practice has always been guided by the principle that legal advocacy is not mere mechanical execution, but a craft that demands a gardener's touch, a careful, lasting engagement that leaves something of oneself behind. Each citation, each argument, each procedural decision is a mark upon the clay, an indelible impression that may one day be studied, critiqued, and serve as a cautionary tale. Dude, stop. Just stop. Don't, like, this is, it's so painful, some of the stuff he says.
Sounds AI written to me.
What'd you say?
it
Sounds
does.
AI written to me.
Metaphors are crossing. Is it
Those
a
M
gardener?
dashes are a dead giveaway.
There are M dashes, but
But is it gardening or sculpting? He can't even get like his analogies. He's like crossovers of analogies within one paragraph.
listen, but this is the crucial thing about it, as we'll say. Your Honor, in the ancient libraries of Ushur-Nabana-Paul, scribes carried their stylus as both tool and sacred trust, understanding that every mark upon the clay would endure long beyond their mortal span. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so it's a little over the top. I had a lot of fun reading the fun
little.
parts of it. Yeah, a lot of fun reading the fun parts of it. But in all seriousness, I do think that other than the flowery, pretentious nonsense, it's a pretty good template.
Other
Well,
than
except
the
that
entire thing, it's pretty good. No.
Like all the parts
How
of
do
it
you
that are
craft that prompt? How would you
Yeah, I
craft
know.
that prompt? It's like, I want a flowery, over the top apology that at surface level sounds really sincere and literary, but is maybe even a little sarcastic and over the top if you think about it.
I want to sound
How'd you
like a
craft that?
blowhard. That's what the guy said.
I struggle to think that even AI would be this over the top. Or at least not without somebody telling it, please be over the top, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like, as in the chat here, as Hayden says, be sure to include references to gardening and crafting. Like, nobody writes that part. That's why I don't think this is AI. I think this is why the person goes to AI, so that not everything sounds like this.
But you can't say that this was actually a good response other than the flowery crap, because his main defense here in this brief was, well, case text got acquired by co-counsel, and when that happened, I therefore couldn't go back to case text and verify my sources. A verification gap that my alternative research methods failed to adequately bridge. I mean, there's a whole lot of other ways to verify case citations than case text.
How about
Sure,
Google
although I will
Scholar?
say, well, that's a side plot of this story. I think what he's saying there is that he utilizes these systems have their way, these tech-assisted ways of checking stuff, and that shift caused a problem. But I'm going to pull back and say that one of the subplots of it is we've heard sometimes in this very chat. Let me see who all's here. Oh, Andrew's not here. Sometimes in this chat, we've heard a lot of people saying that the case text be sunsetting is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of the universe for small lawyers. And I gotta say that this letter seemed to, or this brief seemed to be leaning into that there are going to be people who were reliant upon that technology who are going to not have access to it now. And it might well cause some of these problems. So that was an interesting subplot of it, as somebody who's had this conversation about how dare TR charge for case text all the time. It seemed like, well, there might be some repercussions from that decision.
Describe, mid-page, what are some of the other, I mean, there's plenty of other options out there.
Carolyn Elephant wrote about that recently, about how generative AIs cost so much that it's cutting out the solo and smalls, and
Yeah.
where are tools for the solo and smalls that are actually affordable? Because that's, Carolyn always, that's what she really focuses on, and she's right. I mean, this is a great example of that.
Well, and Carolyn also made the point a few weeks ago about how Harvey specifically makes it very difficult and cost prohibitive for smalls and solos, which exacerbates the the kind of gap in access there.
Yeah. All right. That takes us to the topic of ethical jury selection in the AI area with the magical Niki Black.
Let me set the mood here. um, so whenever ABA ethics opinions come down, I always glance at him, and I remember glancing at this one and thinking, boring, there's no tech in this one, and setting it aside. And then I think when I was under 2 weeks ago and I had to write this my daily record article and I still didn't have a topic, I ran a search, I Googled it, AI technology, legal ethics opinions, and that one popped up. I'm like, well, maybe I should have read it. And so I read it. I was like, oh, it does talk about technology. I'm going to write about this. So I would not say that the conclusion is mind blowing, but I do like that essentially what they said was that when you rely on somebody else or something else to help you choose a jury, whether that's your client's input, a consultant's input, or input from any type of technology, including AI, you need to ensure that the underlying reason for that recommendation is not grounded in bias. So with people, that means you ask the person, or you tell them ahead of time, don't make any bias recommendations, ground them in something else. And it's not grounded in bias, discriminatory bias, right? So it can be like whether the person's married or not or something. That's okay. But the discriminatory classifications, there's certain ones that you can't choose a juror based solely upon that. But with AI, it's part of what you do. They don't actually use the words tech competence, but I use them because that's essentially what they're talking about. Is you need to understand and vet the technology before you use it. Doesn't mean you have to get access to the black box and look at the coding, but you need to ask questions before you choose it about to preclude the likelihood that bias is the what grounds the decision or the recommendation. So I think it's I liked the fact that it was a hidden legal tech opinion, I guess, if you will. And it was a good one, and I think it is timely. And I like how it's starting to pop up. Instead of just being opinions about here's how you can ethically use AI, there's other issues coming up. And I like the fact that the ethics committees are not just, I don't know how in New York, ethics opinions come up either because people ask questions or they decide they need to address an issue. I actually don't know the mechanism of ABA ethics opinions. I think they just choose what they want to write about. But I do like the fact that they took an issue, clarified generally what the rule is, the ethics obligations are, and ensure that they also included how tech could potentially impact that as well. And I think that's how all these ethics issues need to be dealt with moving forward, is they need to always be asking, all right, they asked about this, but could technology potentially be implicated, and should we include that as part of the talking points or the things that we address within this opinion? So I thought it was a good example of that as well. Nothing earth shattering in there, I wouldn't say. I feel like I say that every single week when I have these ethics opinions and I write about them, but I do think it's worth giving a read, and it's an important thing to keep in mind moving forward, to incorporate tech into those opinions if possible, if relevant.
S- something I wasn't clear on from your article is something I guess I just haven't heard a lot about is how legal professionals might be using generative AI in jury selection in the first place. Are there Gen AI tools out there that they're using for voir dire or to help make decisions about potential jurors? Do you know?
I haven't heard of any, but I don't think that doesn't mean there aren't any, and it also doesn't mean that it's far off, right? I mean, I think it's not very far off to get to the point where generative AI can currently take in audio and interpret it. Um, it's not far off that I think it's going to be able to just take in audio and video with the audio and start interpreting that. So that's actually not actually it's a horrible word to use, and you're commenting on something somebody else said. That's an interesting point. That makes it, I hate the word actually, by the way. It makes it seem like thought the person would never raise something interesting, which of course isn't true about you. You shouldn't be saying that to anybody anyway. But it's a really
A crucial distinction.
yeah. Crucial. You're such an asshole, Joe. I love you, but um, but I think that's a really good point. I don't think there is software out there, so it's almost like they're being preemptive and really forward thinking, which is kind of cool as well.
Trying to figure out why Stephanie's taking a picture of us of the screen while
I know, right?
we're.
Well, she's muted now, but she's telling us.
No, I'm back channeling with Cheryl, who is also in the audience about, so I'm trying to send a newsletter and it's not working. And I was sending her a picture of the error message. But I realized while I did it that I was on screen on another, yes.
Yeah,
So I'm sending a picture
you're on a
to send,
video call at the moment.
yeah, I'm sending a picture to send, taking a picture to send to somebody who's in our audience about something not to do with this show.
Okay, all right. That's fair. All right. Any other thoughts on AI and jury selection? All right. I didn't really have much this week. I put in our own little story log a story. Actually, I think I published it during our show last week because I realized I had forgotten to publish it because I'd had such a crazy week last week. On this survey that Thomson Reuters did on U.S. state courts cautiously approach AI despite efficiency promises and staffing crises. And I guess what I really just thought was really interesting about that survey was, in part, it tells us something we already know, which is that state courts are just inundated with huge caseloads and backlogs and lots of work to do. And staff shortages. The survey said 71% of state courts and 56% of county municipal courts experienced staff shortages last year, with 61% anticipating continuing shortages in the next 12 months. We've all heard about how the self-represented litigant issue has been causing courts to face, for court backlogs to get even worse as court clerks have to deal with trying to help self-represented litigants who aren't familiar with the court system and aren't familiar with how to file cases and all of that sort of thing. And at the same time, many court officials recognize that AI is something that could be helping them with this in some way. Then there is a potential for generative AI to help them better serve users of the court systems and better do their own work. And yet, against that backdrop, only 17% of people at state courts say they're using Gen AI in any way today. So there's just this huge gap between the need for Gen AI and probably other technology efficiency tools in the court systems and the actuality of it. And again, I understand there's a lot of barriers to courts even adopting this thing in the first place. in this survey, they say that 70% of the respondents said their courts do not allow employees to use AI-based tools for court businesses. And 75% say their court does not provide any kind of AI training. And I'm sure, obviously budget constraints play a big role. Only, let's just say, only 22% of courts had any kind of an increase in their budget, while 30% of courts said their budgets went down last year, and another 30% said they just remain static. So there's just this interesting disconnect between how courts are using, how courts could be using AI and how they're actually doing it. That hopefully we start to see some improvement in over the next couple of years.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Because it's like, even if AI has the potential to come to that backlog, the question is whether the courts will allow it to do so. Right? I mean, like, given what we know about courts and what we know about lawyers and judges and whatnot, that doesn't seem like it's going to happen, at least not anytime soon. That's just the nature of the beast, I guess. It's just people being suspicious of technology until they can know for sure that it's not gonna bite them in the butt. And it's just yeah. You look at the stats that you cited. It's like, yeah, all these people, their cases just linger for a long time. There's no, there's such a huge problem with like access to justice and everything like that. And I'm not saying that the AI is the band-aid that will fix everything, but at some point push will come to shove, and it's like, well, what are you going to do about all these cases? You have to do something.
Yeah. There are, it should be noted, there are obviously, sort of pockets of innovation or islands of innovation in courts all across the country. I know that, again, here in Massachusetts, I think we've talked about this before, but Suffolk Law School's Legal Innovation Lab, is that what they call it? I'm blanking on the name of it. But they've been working with the Massachusetts court system to do some interesting stuff with Gen AI, including this, I think I've mentioned this before, but there's an appellate procedure in Massachusetts, sort of a pro se litigant appellate procedure that they've developed, this kind of application that helps self-represented litigants prepare their appeals using this Gen AI tool that's been developed in cooperation with judges and that apparently is quite successful and doing quite well. So that's one example of where something is being done to incorporate Gen AI into the court system.
There was an interesting, I put this in our Slack chat. I thought that article about whether generative AI, evidence from generative AI constitutes hearsay. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at that.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
I'll put it in the chat, but it was, the idea was that whether generative AI can turn hearsay into admissible evidence, and there was a case where the one of the pieces of evidence that the insurance company wanted the court to consider was a wind verification report generated by a system that combined a proprietary three-dimensional storm models with artificial intelligence and radar data and real-world observations. And the plaintiff wanted to exclude it, saying it was inadmissible hearsay. And the court said that it was admissible because it just contained raw data generated by a machine or algorithm. But then what Evan said, I don't know if you guys know Evan, but he said that Evan Brown, it raises an interesting question. Can a litigant use generative AI to prepare content and get it admitted into evidence when it otherwise would have been barred by the hearsay rule? So in this case, the judge is like, well, it wasn't really generative AI, it was just algorithmic AI crunching data versus generating content. But it'll be interesting to see how I thought it was just a interesting sort of predictive issue. Like, this will probably become an issue, and he said probably not, because I mean, hearsay is hearsay. At the end of the day, you got to see if it was an out-of-court statement that goes to the truth of the matter asserted therein. But then it comes down to, is it a statement? Is a statement from a machine different than a statement from a person? And isn't like part of the reason that I have to go back to evidence? It's been a long time since I thought about this, but isn't part of the reason for hearsay that people aren't machines, right? They have motives. and the machine presumably doesn't have a motive to lie. So I wonder how that would. I may be remembering. I should know this, but it's been a long time since I thought about hearsay by really breaking it down. But I wonder. It'd be
Well, it's
interesting.
also the opportunity to cross-examine.
Yeah,
You
it's a
might have
confrontation. It's a confrontation issue, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I thought it was an interesting issue to think about. Because can you cross-examine ChatGPT? Maybe
Yeah.
in theory, I don't know. Can you put it up there on the stand and ask it questions and it'll respond? Sure.
It'll
Is it
just be like,
expected
you're so
model?
right. You're so right. I'm sorry. I made that mistake.
That's true.
You are brilliant.
And
It
like the
would be,
libraries of as a written and whatever.
it basically would be the real life Perry Mason moment. You ask the question, it's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. What's wrong? Uh, yeah, no, I thought that was a really interesting article and question, and it got me thinking more about not as much on the hearsay front, but the AI as expert situation where people try to get in data that probably by itself couldn't come in, but it can be if it's interpreted by an expert, but is this enough to count as being interpreted? Like that, those kinds of questions worry me a little bit too. But yeah, it was very interesting.
All right.
That was the story I had in my back pocket as filler. I'm all out.
I think for the last 5 minutes, we should just quietly listen to the wind chimes.
Yeah. You can tell us about your wine at the state fair.
It hasn't. We submitted it. We'll wait and see. Well, it's my husband's, but we submitted it and we'll wait and see if he wins or gets any. I don't know, ribbons. You get? What do you get at the state fair? Ribbons.
I think so.
Places for his amateur.
You're asking the wrong people.
It came out good. My daughter and I were all ready when he opened it to be like, oh yeah, no, this is great. We're like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. so we'll see. But yeah, I guess.
Awesome.
Anyway, you shouldn't have brought that up because I could talk about that all day too. And it's totally off topic.
Another show. We'll do it next time. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got, and we will all be see some of you over the next couple of days in Portland. We're just a few weeks out from ILTA. That's coming up pretty quickly. And then flat out into the autumn conference. It's like a packed conference season this year. September and October are going to be kind of crazy. So looking forward to seeing people at various events over the coming months.
All right.
All right. Anything else? Go to the order. All right. Thanks a lot to everybody. Hope you all have a good week. And we'll be back here next week talking about AA double L.
Yep.
We're doing,
See ya.